And we are back with Dawn Hall, author of the Cookbook. And Dawn, it is so great to have you. It's nice to just sit down and enjoy some of this casserole we just put together.
Some good stuff, isn't it?
Now, Dawn, I know that this was not something that you had planned on doing, writing this cookbook over the years. Where did you find yourself in life when you actually decided to do something like this? Did God actually place it in your heart to do this?
The cookbooks are totally a God thing. If I was doing cookbooks just to sell cookbooks, I would have stopped a long time ago. That's not my purpose. The cookbooks are a tool that God's using so I can help like ministries like this. And originally, I was in my kitchen. My loving husband was diagnosed with an aggressive brain cancer. I brought some photographs. The day after his 32nd birthday, that was 11 years ago, this November in 1994. And the doctors gave him 6 months to live. They only gave him a 30% chance of living through the surgery. A good illustration is my hand. The doctors were able to remove 1 pound of cancer. It would be about the size of my fist. And the cancer itself had extensions, which would be like my fingers. All those fingers equaled up to about the size of a thumb. And he was completely paralyzed his entire left side. The doctor said he may never walk again after the 8th day of being paralyzed. And we were told that there was nothing else we could do, enjoy what little life you have left. And about 6 months later, we discovered a treatment that was experimental out of Houston, Texas that we wanted to use, but it was $3,500 a month, and our insurance would not cover it. And to make a long story short, I'm a recovering compulsive overeater. I'm a high school graduate. I didn't know how to type, didn't know how to use a computer. I homeschooled our children. We took care of foster children. And I had a very fulfilling life that way. But then my life was turned upside down and inside out, and I needed to try to raise $3,500 a month. It's like, well, churches use cookbooks all the time. And I've been working on these recipes because my background was teaching aerobics and facilitating classes for compulsive overeaters. I'm a recovering compulsive overeater myself. I say there's nothing a hot veggie brownie can't make feel better. You know what? You girls both giggled about that. Would you have laughed if I said, you know, there's nothing a double martini won't make feel better? There's nothing crack cocaine. But in our society today, food addictions, using food as our drug of choice is acceptable. And it's something I still struggle with, honestly. So anyways, to make a long story short, whatever I created the night before, I took in my students. Now, I didn't know how to type, I didn't know how to use a computer, but I never made the same meal twice. Matter of fact, on our first anniversary, my husband and I said, what can we do to be better spouses? And he's like, honey, would you just make like the same kind of spaghetti twice this year? The same kind of pot roast? And in all honesty, how would you like to be a guinea pig 365 days a year? You know, it's not what's cracked up to be, and not everything's really good. Only the really good recipes make the cookbook. Well, my students got to taste whatever I created the night before. And I would make something in 10 or 15 minutes, but it would take me an hour to hand write it, take the cans, figure out the nutritional information. And I did this for years, and I thought, well, I'm saving these recipes for them. I might as well save the recipes on top of the refrigerator. And I did this for like 4 or 5 years before he was ever diagnosed with brain cancer.
But did you have any idea? You know, somebody who only has a high school education, as you say, you couldn't type, could not use a computer.
I can barely type now.
Can type a little bit now. That you would see such phenomenal success with a cookbook.
Well, I actually argued with God when he said, use the cookbook. And I'm like, God, I've been telling people I'm writing a cookbook, but I'm not really, I thought I'd publish one.
Right.
And he's like, use the book. And that was over 1 million books ago. Matter of fact, Down Home Cooking Without the Down Home Fat was my very first book I ever wrote. And it's the first of the Busy People series. And that won Best Cookbook of the Year when it became a national book, and one of Ohio's best cookbooks. That is a God thing, and I would be a fool to take credit for it.
Wow.
It's totally a God thing. I just need to be obedient, you know. When he said use the cookbook, I argued with him, but I was obedient. I followed through. And God shows you a way when there seems to be no way.
But Dawn, how tempting was it for you to say, but God, I am only a housewife, or I am only a mom, or I'm only this or only that, when God says, but I can make you so much more if you'll just be obedient.
When for every negative comment I had, there was a biblical scripture that backed it up of God speaking to me. When I said, God, I'm not smart enough, God says in the Bible, I will give you wisdom. When I said, there was a time I was so exhausted, and I said, God, I'm so exhausted. And he said, I will give you rest. Lord, for every single thing, he had a positive And you know what? When my husband passed away, my most favorite scriptures is when Jesus said, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." You know, through it all, no matter how hard it is, if we keep our eyes totally focused on God, God will do through us and for us what we are not able to do on ourselves. But we have to stay totally focused on God. It's not about me. It's not about cookbooks. It's about God.
Dawn,
You know?
it's interesting that you'd say that because you had a very real need in your life. You had to come up with $3,500 a month.
At one time, I was $60,000 behind in medical debt because of $3,500 went up to $7,000. The cost increased, doubled.
So you have this huge financial need. Taking care of your family is a ministry in itself. Despite all that, why do you say?
I fell short in that area. I could not be Wonder Woman. I wish I could make up those years.
But why do you say, even despite the fact that you had this financial need and you're taking care of your family, still the cookbook has to be all about God? It's not just taking care of your family financially.
Yeah, definitely.
It's an act of obedience.
You know what? When I said I fell short as a mom, because you can't do it all. You know, sometimes I think people think like I'm Superwoman, and I'm not. Something has to give. I can't work. I mean, I was working from 6 in the morning till 2 in the morning. One time I got myself so exhausted that I told my husband, Tracy, who at this time was paralyzed on the left-hand side, and this is like years into his treatment. So I apologized because when I said that, I was like holding back tears. So I really didn't hear what you just said. Whatever question you asked me, I really didn't hear. I just went back like 7 or 8 years ago. The exhaustion. I couldn't do it all the time. I mean, at one time I had 10 assistants working for me, and I still was so exhausted that I got the children off to school like at 8 or 9 o'clock. I said, "Honey, I'm so tired. Tracy, can I just lay down and take like a little nap?" I slept till the children got home, like at 3 or 4. I started making dinner. I said, "Honey, I am so exhausted. Can I just take another little nap?" I slept till the next day. I slept 22 hours.
Wow.
You know what? I was so filled with guilt and shame. It's like, wait a second. Jesus went away for 40 days and 40 nights. You slept one day of your life away. But I think we need to be more gentle with ourselves and just allow God to do it through you. You know?
Absolutely, Dawn. It's like we were saying, when you step in obedience, God then supplies everything you need.